So this is the Hallberg Butterfly Gardens. This is the original Gravenstein orchard on the property. Over here you have the original Hallberg house where Louise Hallberg was born and raised in the early 1900s. And her family initially started, they had a fruit farm here, not just apples, but they had stone fruits and peaches and plums and stuff also. And then over the years, the apples have, especially this part of the orchard, this old Gravenstein orchard is kind of the remnants from the original family history here. And then Louise Hallberg, she started the Hallberg Butterfly Gardens, and which is a wildlife preserve here in the middle of wine country in Sebastopol. And so there's this really unique relationship here because we have this working orchard that still produces apples, and then adjacent to this butterfly preserve. And so you get this really cool experience where there's a relationship now between the butterflies and these apple trees. They're really careful about their farming here, just knowing you know, that really the intention of this property is to be a butterfly preserve. It just happens to be that there's these cool old Gravensteins on the property. And so these are the apples that go into the Wildcard bottling, which is a co-ferment of these dry farmed 80-year-old apples that's co-fermented with wild California grapes. So here's an example of where these 80-year-old dry farm trees really look more like oak trees than they do apples. You know, we're in the middle of wine country, and so if you're a landowner here, you are kind of incentivized to, if you have these existing old growth, dry farmed orchards on your property, you think you're incentivized to cut them all down and grow grapes, you know, but there's this slippery slope when you do that. You know, for one, these trees require no irrigation, you know, and water is a precious resource here in California. And also, especially when you do a no-till farming, you know, these trees are capturing carbon from the atmosphere and putting it into the soil. And so when you combine that with regenerative farming techniques, you can keep the carbon in the soil also. But once you cut these trees down, because you want to grow more grapes, you know, now you got to dig wells because you have these young vines that require irrigation. And then you're most likely going to be dependent on spraying. So now you're introducing more chemicals onto the property. So now you're using all these resources that you didn't need to use before when you had these existing apple orchards on the property. And so these trees are here. They don't require a whole lot of farming because of their age. They don't really even grow all that much during the growing season. There are years here where they haven't even pruned. And so you have these old established trees, and they're already here, you know. So instead of thinking that we need to plant more of the same thing to make more wine, like, why not just use the fruit that we already have here and create a market for it? And so that's what we're trying to do here. I mean, I'm certainly not the only one. You know, the folks at Tilted Shed and Bardos Cider and other cideries here in Sonoma County are certainly carrying the torch. You know, I'm following their example and learning from them. But I think it's an important conversation to have here in wine country, is that there's other fruit here. There's more agricultural diversity here in Sonoma County than I think people realize. And so let's create a market for these apples and for this fruit that requires, you know, minimal resources and no water.